Morning, everyone. Welcome. How are you? Good. Everyone here for the money? Just to make sure we're in the right place, right? What's the hardest thing about getting a grant? Don't say all of it. Well, it is all of it. And we're going to talk about all the processes, the plans, procedures that you need to have in place to be grant ready. Moral of the story today is don't do the grant. This is what I look like before grants. This is what you look like after grants, all right? So stick with the avatar, right? It's very much, again, that you need to be thinking about having a strategy about how you're doing a targeted approach. What I'm going to be talking about all morning. Do you have a grants calendar? Do you have a grants plan, process, procedure? How are you undertaking grants acquittal, auditing, evaluation? The expectation now of you, put on you by the funding body, but also they expect you to be doing that anyway because you're a consummate professional organisation, whether you're an NGO, community organisation, not-for-profit, sporting club, whatever the case may be. The bar has now been firmly raised, basically, in terms of expectation by both public and private sector funding out there. We're talking about billions of dollars. On average, there are 30 grants released across Australia every week, okay, across all sectors. No shortage of grants, shortage of quality grant applications. So what's the one guarantee I can give you this morning? Rejection. You're not going to get the grant. 86% of grant applications fail in Australia. Federal government are oversubscribed 12-1 in any grant funding round they release. Perpetual, one of the biggest trusts that hand out funding out there, got 110,000 applications last year. There are 66,000 listed not-for-profits and charities in this country, nearly 700,000 community organisations, and you're all going for a lot of the same money. Anyone want to leave now? So it's very much, again, be proactive rather than reactive. And the second workshop I'm back to do in April is about strategic funding, because the expectation from a funding body is grants is but one component or mechanism of sourcing funding. You should be looking at fundraising, sponsorship, crowdfunding, bequests, donations. They're your big five. And if not, why not? Because otherwise they see you as putting all the eggs in one basket with grants. They don't like that, right? To use a metaphor, you bake the cake, they put the cream on top. Okay, so very much, again, it's contributory funding. This is an investment, not a gift. It's not a handout. It's about ROI and KPIs, return on investment, and key performance indicators. Measurables. They want to see community tangible impact. If you build it, will they come? Okay, so that's what they want to see. What I love as a grants assessor, because I'm a grants assessor as well across public and private sector, stats and facts, tangible data that can't be argued against. Make a statement, back it up in a grant application. Reference government documents, your own documents, qualitative and quantitative information, surveys, polls, questionnaires, prove it, university research, university policy, government policy. If I don't see that, it's all speculative, okay? And very much that's what I'm seeing at the end of the day in terms of applications. Last minute, haphazard, ad hoc, okay? And that's where we can't be. This is my wife listening to me talk about grants again at home, basically, but it's also the exasperation of being there 4:55, pressing send and hoping for the best with 5 minutes to go to deadline. I can't prescribe that because inherently I see mistakes all the time in grant applications that are written in the last minute. So work back. This is time management, project management. You have a due date. Optimally, grants are open 2, 4, or 6 weeks, sometimes even longer, the bigger ones. So you have time. Some of those grants are recurrent. You know they're coming up year on year. You have 11 months to plan for them every year. Like club grants is open at the moment. That comes up this year, every year. So again, you understand what's out there. You need that grants calendar. How many people here have a grants calendar? All right, flying solo. Okay. Okay, where would you get a grants calendar? Where would you find the grant? Local government, obviously, what they're advertising. State government, the relevant government department. Federal government have it through Grant Connect, the website Grant Connect, or business.gov.au is a fantastic resource as well. It's a search engine. You can put in a keyword search and a grant will come up. So business.gov.au and Grant Connect are the two websites I'd recommend. The private sector, then, you have a number of areas that you can subscribe to, pay an annual fee. Probably the big four would be strategic grants with their GEM portal, Grants Guru, Grants Hub, and Our Community, right? So strategic grants, Grants Hub, Grants Guru, and Our Community. Their subscription services, a couple of $100 a year. You get a fortnightly email out, what's opening, what's closing. Okay? You need a grants calendar. You need to know what's coming up. So indicatively, you have a tailored approach, not a scattergun approach. Because I see this all the time. People just opening the phone book and go, let's go for that one. Or just get it in. What actually happens if you get the money? There's another problem, isn't it? Be careful what you wish for, you just might get it. Because you got to deliver on time and on budget. That's the expectation, right? We're going to do business together, all right? So very much it must be a targeted approach to grants. That's why I work with organisations, NGOs, communities, schools, sporting clubs, Aboriginal groups. Their top 20, the top 30, they're going to apply for in a year. One organisation I worked with last year applied for 67 grants. How many do you think they win out of 67?
6.
6? More than 6? Yeah, exactly. No, they won 19. That's good, right? If you're getting 1 out of 5 or 2 out of 5 as a ratio of return, you're doing well in grants in Australia. Okay? Now, why did they get 19? Because they've resourced themselves. They put together a pseudo grants team. They had a grants policy, they had a grants mindset, they had a grants calendar, they used the grants writer. So, streamlined process. It's the only way it's going to work. Otherwise, it's higgledy-piggledy. All right? So very much, again, you may have a realization this morning about stepping back and drawing a line and looking at where you need to commit now for the rest of 2024 to get yourself grant ready, not only for this year, but for 2025. Okay? What are we heading into? An election. Okay? So optimum timing, right? So again, it's very much looking at and you're kind of that hybrid area, right? You're half kind of regional rural and you're half urban, which is Western Sydney, so massive focus point for government and rightly so, growing population, okay? And secondly, regional rural, which is a huge focus for government as well, obviously to resource it very much at the end of the day, right? We've heard the Premier come out and talk about health and education. That's always going to be the big 2 hitters in terms of funding in Australia, both public and private. They're the big 2 sectors always get funded, and everything falls in it thereafter at the end of the day. But I'd like to stress what Tracy said as well, because it's a very pertinent point. Government doesn't like silos, it likes collaboration. So everyone is your new best friend in the room. All right, so it's time to start signing MOUs, memorandums of understanding how you're going to work with each other, resource each other, collaboration, community capacity building, as government like to call it. Okay? Because they like to create about community hubs, right? Hubs that feed out into the community. So we're seeing this all around Australia. They're doing it in New South Wales and Dubbo and Coffs Harbour and Wagga, where they have a number of enterprises coming together. And that could be Lifeline, Vinnie's, Salvos, Rotary, Probus, Menshed, U3A, Lines, everyone, right? Just coming together, basically going, what have you got and what am I willing to share? And what do I need from you? And how can we work together? Okay, resourcing each other. That makes it, one of government's favourite words, sustainable. Because 2 big words in grants, along with all the other words in grant speak, what I'm going to talk about this morning, is innovation and sustainability. All right, they want to see that you're obviously going to be here in 5 years' time. I wouldn't fund anyone that's making an operating loss. Doesn't make sense, because I'm going to ask for a copy of your P&Ls, your profitability statements, and your cash flow and your budget. Because the expectation is that you're extrapolating from a project plan, business plan, strategic plan, and budget to write your grant application. They have to come first. The ideology comes before the plan, comes before the ask. If you don't have that, government's going to ask for a please explain. All right, because you're flying blind. And if I don't know where you're going, how am I supposed to invest into you? So you have to come back to, that'll help you when you design a business plan for your organization, strategic plan, and a budget, that you actually extrapolate from that. Not the 2 words that irk me the most in grants, copy and paste, but utilize rather than plagiarize, and then repurpose it into the actual writing of the grant at the end of the day. The amount of applications I see week on week, year on year, are copy and paste. Here's last year's application, Keith, again, you lucky person. I know you read it once, but you get a chance to read it again, with all the errors, typos again, just for you. Can you imagine that for me as a grants assessor, right? No one's proofreading, no one's editing. Please, it's draft, it's version control. I do 4 drafts of any grant that I write, 1 per week. Okay, that's why I don't do last minute. So we're trying to steer you away from that last minute. Because that's what I'm seeing, is those obvious errors, those little errors. I've seen blank spaces where there should be answers. I've seen budgets with no totals. I've seen people putting in not applicable where there should be an answer. The fact that in 2023 I assessed grant applications with emojis, selfies, and text language in them tells me people are not getting this. Exactly. Remember, this is a business document. A business document. In fact, a grant is a glorified sales pitch. So what I ask my clients is, do you know how to sell yourself? Because that's what you're doing. Anyone want to go home now? Am I making sense? Too much sense? Anyone understand anything with the accent from hello? Right? Irish people get excited talking about money, so we talk fast. So tell me to slow down, right? Last minute, get away from it. It's not going to do you any justice, all right? And have a targeted approach to what grants you're applying for, hence the calendar, very, very important at the end of the day. And resource yourself that you have the plans to extrapolate from, build from, rather than looking at a blank page or a blank screen and trying to conceptualize it on the spot as an idea. Okay? Now, I know and you know that working in your sector, this is your biggest issue, right? Time and capacity. Time to conceptualize a capacity to do it. Because you're so busy working in the business, you don't have time to work on the business. Now's the time to change that. Because government went, I know you're kind of chasing your tail a lot and you're trying to be reactive. They want strategy now. They want to have that plan of where you're going to be in 3 to 5 years and how you're going to get there. What's the roadmap to success? Why should I invest in you rather than anyone else? Give me that quality assurance, as they like to call it. Right? They want to see program logic, rhyme, reason, sense, rationale to everything you're proposing and doing. They want to see a statement of needs that you've quantified, that you actually think it's a good idea legitimately and can prove it to them. They want to see an understanding and a qualified understanding that you understand about governance, risk management, probity, transparency, authenticity, ethical values. And if you don't, why not? Because I only want to work with and fund best practice organizations. And this is why it's got really competitive, and this is why collaboration now has been the means for a lot of people to survive and move forward. So it's very much having this realism. It's getting more and more competitive at the end of the day. Okay? So it's knowing where you are and where you need to be and how grants and other funding needs to resource you in that regard. People can only help you if they know you exist. Profile, profile, profile. Where are you with a public profile for your organization? We're now talking about business storytelling in grants, telling the story of where you come from, where are you, where you're going. If I don't know that narrative before you even apply for the grant, you're just application number 000353. I don't know you from a bar of soap. So you need to do the subliminal marketing ahead of time, which is get on the front foot. Because in certain instances, when you get shortlisted, what am I going to do? I'm going to Google you, aren't I? Oh, we're having problems with this somewhere. There we go. Well, I'm going to Google you. And you need to be current, topical, and relevant. Your last Facebook post can't be August 2009. In fact, you need to have social media. In fact, you need to have a website. How about one of those things? That'd be great. I need to see you as purposeful in the community because you're my conduit, right? I'm giving you the money because I can't do it myself as a government. I'm too big an entity to get down into the trenches. You're there doing day to day. I need you as much as you need me. Validate that to me. But validate that with a plan and ideology and ask. Not like, she'll be right. What could go wrong? A lot. All right? Why you, why here, why now? Because the predominant question in everything we do in grants is the why, answering that question. In fact, your first template, which I'll put up in a while, is the 5 W's. Who, what, where, when, why equals how. Who are you? What do you do? Where do you do it? When do you do it? Why do you do it? And how much do you want for it? If you can't answer those questions, don't go near a grant application form. Am I shocking you? Okay. So it's just a reiteration and ratification of where we need to be, right? Now it's the roadmap, what we're going to do about that at the end of the day. Someone has to get the money. It might as well be you. That's the reassurance I get you. I've got to spend budget before end of financial year. Has to be you. But we're not going to take everything. We're not going to take slipshod and shady. Okay? Prove it to me. That's what I want to see. I'll give you an example. Standard question on a grant application. Please provide a brief overview of your organization. What's the key word? Brief. Of course it is. But someone will answer that. In 1856, we were founded by Catholic monk St. Father John Joseph Maguire, who came to Parramatta. In 1857, you've only got 500 words. We've got to get from 1857 to 2024. People have this compulsion in grants writing that I need everything. Less is more. You're writing a glorified tweet. Count characters now, not words. I don't need everything. This compulsion to tell me everything. I don't need everything. I can get it from the supplementaries that you're adding on and attaching, or I can Google you. I don't need to know everything about you. So, moral of grant writing is, and I've been saying this in 14 years practicing as a consultant, answer the question you're asked, not the question you think you're asked. Answer the question. You did it in high school, you did it at TAFE, you did it at university, you got the marks. Do the same here. Don't go off on a tangent. Don't give me waffle and wordology. Stick on point. This is an open book exam. They're telling you already where the answers to the questions are, which are, one, the background to why the grant's been formulated, what it's there to achieve. But everyone's in such a rush, they go straight to the application form and never read the background to why the grant's there and what it's there to do. Secondly, the questions themselves. As I've just given you the example, brief. Demonstrate means show. I need to see a case study. Okay? So it's very much, again, proving, right? I get this a lot. We are the premier service provider in Windsor. You're the only service provider in Windsor. That's why you are the premier. Bit inflation there. And I got a lot of inflation in the narrative. We're amazing, thanks for asking. And you're like, I didn't ask. So again, substantiation. Stats and facts, tangible community impact that you're having as a community at the end of the day. Who's coming? How often? Are your numbers growing, basically? The diversity, male, female, young, old. That's what I want to see. Because government wants to see social cohesion, social inclusion. How you're bringing and uniting a society together. So as I said, have a plan. Just have a plan to start with. If you don't have that now, that should be your realization from today. But if the one learning from today in terms of grants writing is the 3 C's. The 3 C's in grants writing are clear, concise, and compelling. Clear, concise, and compelling, or short, succinct, and to the point. That's a well-written grant application. That's what I want to see. Don't talk around the subject, talk at the subject. Just give it to me straight. It's the KISS principle, just keep it simple. Right, my favorite phrase at the moment, the most uncommon thing is common sense. And that's all I want to see in a grant application. Just common sense. Don't do grey, all right? Just give it to me straight. As I said, this is your first template. This allows you to prove it. Particularly the why. Anyone surprised by anything I'm saying? Any questions? No? I'll throw in the Riverdance and Irish jokes for free at the end as well, all right? So hang on there. So research, you need to find what grants are out there. We talked about grants calendars. You need to find out who else is getting grants in the area as well, for what and how much. Okay, what are government looking to give money for?
How do you find out who's got the grant?
Well, they usually publicly list them.
On the same site?
Yeah, so local government will list the grant recipient, the amount, may even for the project title. Same with government to a degree as well. So you have to do your research and go back through last year and the year before and the year before that. You'll also see a lot of recurrent. This is the indictment always, oh, it's them, they're always getting it. They're always getting it because they have a grants process to get it. That's why they're always getting it. And they're tried, and they're trusted, and they've got runs on the board. Yep. Why wouldn't I give it to them? You got to remove the risk factor for funding bodies. All right, if you're an unknown, if you're a new entity, if you haven't collaborated, if there's 3 people on your committee, where's the sustainability, where's the innovation? All right? You got to give me reasons as a grants assessor for me to automatically shortlist you. Like optimally, I'm doing 2 to 3 read-throughs of your grant application. First read-through is a skim read. I'm looking for keywords. And in fact, federal government now uses software package like a HR screening tool where they look at the keywords. Unless your keywords are embedded, gone. So very much, again, this is why the drafting is so important. But it's understanding basically that you have to get impact statements. First 20 words, last 20 words of a grant application is where it's won or lost. I need a good title, by the way, as well. People forget about that. Because someone will write to me going, what's the name of your grant application? Oh, The Project 2024. Wow. How long did it take you to come up with that one? All right. So I need something that's going to give me that. But I also need the impact. First 20 words, last 20 words are very important. In between, substantiation, stats and facts. All right. But people feel, for some unknown reasons, the only time I see it, when they write a grant application, they think they need to behave like Dickens or Shakespeare. And they inflate the language for some unknown reason. Right? The fact that I have read a grant application with the word supercalifragilisticexpialidocious in it tells me that people, again, aren't getting it, right? Someone got stuck in ubiquitous recently, just fell in love with the word, kept on using it. I got a lot of that recurrent language. It's called a dictionary or thesaurus. They're beautiful things, all right? Right? Grammarly, spell check. And let's talk about the elephant in the room. ChatGPT. Oh yeah, hallelujah. All right, that's gonna just do the whole thing for me. No, it won't. I don't mind you using ChatGPT in the first instance as the first working draft. Go right ahead to your heart's content because I'll never see it. But the last draft that you're submitting to me needs to have your own personal stamp on it as an organization. And remember, it's correlating from generic subject matter and other grants, so you need to edit it. So as a first trial and error process, go right ahead and use it as a word capsulation, as a word generation tool, so you're not looking at a blank page or a blank screen. It'll give you a template of ideology to create and enhance from that, but not the final product that I receive. Because we've been trained in it now what to look for as well. It uses a lot of common words and everything else, even though we've grant speak ourselves. And grant speak is important because you need to understand it. Grant speak is what I refer to as government language to a degree, which is, I've used words already like innovation and sustainability, robust, agile, effective, efficient. That's grant speak. So it's again knowing when to optimally use that phraseology, not all the time. Okay? So research what's out there, have a relationship with the funding body, because outside of the funding round, due to probity, obviously in that funding round I can't talk to you. There's no reason I can't talk to you at other times of the year to talk about the grant application, to talk that you're going to be submitting. Who are your new best friends locally? Well, Tracy's number one. Number two, the state or federal MP, because they put out grants and they're also there to get funding across the line in their electorates. All right? So they're your second one as well. And then everyone else in the room, because they're your community partners. They're your three new sets of friends. So work with them, okay? Not be seen as only coming in once a year asking for money. Not a good look. All right? And reporting. This seems to be just as hard as the application process. People don't think about this onerous obligation on them. The acquittal, the auditing, the evaluation. Again, inherently, the expectation from government is that you're such an articulate and professional organisation, you are reporting on everything you do as best practice anyway, let alone when I come looking for it. And if you're not, why not? If you can't find out how well things are working, how do you know where you're going? Or not, as the case may be. So those 3 R's again, research, relationship, reporting. And this is the first of checklists, and I love my grants checklist, and I'm going to share a lot of them with you today. What's required? You need to be seen to be capacity building in the community. You need to have a sustainability of approach, basically. You need to be creating a profile for your business, and I use that word deliberately, even if you're a charity, not-for-profit, sports club, you're a business. Profit, loss. You're planning your grant application. You're proactive, not reactive. You have a grants calendar. You're doing the acquittal of the grant. You're extrapolating from a project plan, business plan, and CapEx, which is your budget to write the grant. And your application connects with me, communicates quite clearly what your ask and intention is, and shows me how you're going to deliver on time and on budget. Easy when you say a fast and Irish accent, isn't it? So again, you need to make sure you're not missing a step. Questions? Talk to me. Pick my brain. Yes, madam?
Definitely videoing this so we can watch it back again.
You can, live and unleashed. This will be a Netflix special by the end of the week.
With subtitles? No.
I'm sorry, what? I don't speak Australian. What was that? I go home and they think I sound like Alf from Home and Away every time I go back to Ireland, by the way. With my no worries mate, Brian. Brian is my name. Why'd you call me mate all the time, basically, right? Yes, madam.
Could you just mention again the main sites?
Sure.
Where you can find, because you spoke quickly.
I did speak quickly, didn't I? I have a habit of doing that, don't I? I know, all right? That works well for me at home when my wife only gets every second word and she's looking at me like, what's he saying? So the private sector, strategic grants, Grants Hub, Grants Guru, and our community. And then the top two from the from the public sector, would be Grant Connect and business.gov.au. But then obviously indicatively, you're looking at your relevant government department, Department of Office of Sport, Department of Community Services, the Arts, Aboriginal Indigenous Affairs, whatever the case may be. And then local government. So whatever LGA you're in, they're the resources you need to be looking at. Right? So their subscriptions, a lot of organizations I work with, I do tailored grant calendars for people. They're generic. You'll get everything all in sundry, so you'll have to trail through them. We offer a service where we do tailored basically, so it depends what your preference is, right? Whether you want to have a good look around or you want to go, just give me the top 10 I really need to be applying for. Because the belief within the grants fraternity, right, is that most people have the capability to write a grant up to $50,000 in value on their own if they have time and capacity and resources. Beyond that, you're going to need a grants writer or a grants consultant. Anyone use a grants writer? No? Okay. They're out there. They walk amongst us. All right. So it's very much, again, there's a lot of really good grants writers out there. They're moving away from the fee-based and success model. They're charging an hourly rate, a project rate, or a retainer rate. And the caveat, you can't take the money out of the grant to pay for them. Not allowed. Not allowed. Okay? So you have to have the cash resources together. Now they'll value add, they're very good basically. Most of the work I do, I don't write grants for my clients. My clients just come to me in a draft and I become a primary school teacher. I get a red pen out, track changes, edits, give it back to them. They love that. They learn and I only charge an hourly rate to do it and they go. So create that for yourself or basically go out and outsource it at the end of the day. This is my favorite quote when it comes to grants. I think it's applicable to the public sector as well. Government loves inputs, outputs, outcomes. Embed that in your terminology, in your mindset, please, and put it into your grant application. Inputs, outputs, outcomes. Quantify and qualify again what's going to happen. But no emotional appeal. Because I've had applications, please give us the money. Please, in fact, don't give us the money anymore. Things are so bad, just don't give us the money. You're like, okay. So again, it's very much about optimizing what's around. So we're learning from the floods, we're learning from the bushfires, how to do it better, basically. Government is part of that. You need to be part of that process in the eyes of government. That you who I need to be talking to on the ground to get things done. Okay? Questions? Keep them coming. Pick my brain. That's why I'm here. Don't want death by PowerPoint.
When you're writing, you can spend half an hour getting the same word out of the paragraph. You can put it 4 times.
There's a great quote from my fellow Irishman, Oscar Wilde, that spent a day changing a comma for a full stop.
Yeah, you've got to try to invent a word that says the same thing, so you can actually repeat the word but not repeat the word.
Yeah, it's a jigsaw, and it's really trying to structure it. But
An author I used to read, started to collaborate with somebody, and when I read the latest book and I found the same adjective 6 times on the one page, I don't read that person anymore.
it's a turn-off, exactly. It's the same for us as grants assessors. And so repetitiveness isn't going to work for you at the end of the day. Madam next here has a question.
Yeah, I was wondering how often they want, I guess, the proof of the usage of the funds.
Always. That's part of the auditing and the acquittal.
Afterwards, though, as well? Yeah.
Well, obviously, yeah. Let's say you got funding from them last year. You obviously would have to done the acquittal before you're going to commit to the next funding round. And they would have given you tick the box. And then always as a continuity of approach for your organisation, you're always monitoring, appraising everything you're doing as an activity to get value for money out of it. And that's government's favourite phrase, VFM, value for money, because it's taxpayers' money. So you need to talk about value for money in your grant application. Their second favourite acronym is WIIFM. What's in it for me? Why wouldn't they ask that question? Again, it's taxpayers' money, right? It's got to be spent with probity, transparency, authenticity, all those things. So yes, the acquittal is a continuity of approach. It's not about this, we're only doing it at the end. Because evaluation starts at the beginning, not the end. So you're constantly in that cyclical nature as an organisation. You're always constantly, for yourself, right? To monitor and appraise what's working, what's not working at the end of the day. Why waste time and effort on something that's not going to work out for you? Okay? Questions, keep them coming. Yes, sir?
Just wondering, we've started up a new men's shed where there is the Australian Men's Shed Association.
Yes.
Where they do supply grants.
That's correct.
To get funding for a building,
Yeah.
because we're new,
Yeah.
we could apply for grants and we can get some of the kudos if we got approved from the Australian Men's Shed Association rather than just being.
Oh, always. Yeah. You need your peak body support. So you need ratification from them in the first instance. It'd be one of the first things I'd look for. That there's a quantifiable need and they support the need at the end of the day, whether it be financially or in principle or in kind. So very much so, yes. Yeah.
We're doing that.
Good. You're on the right track. Keep it going. And when I mean keep it going, momentum is only going to be the hardest thing, right? Because a lot of you are volunteer-based organisations, right? And thank you, by the way, for what you do for the community. But it's very much volunteer-based. So again, that's hard, right? Because you're depending on people to show up. You're depending on people to get things. They've already got time poor, all right? They got families, they got work commitments, and now you're overloading them with this, right? At the end of the day. So very much, again, you got to optimize that. I do a workshop on volunteer management, and this is what we talk about all the time, basically, how to have a better way of doing it. But at the end of the day, it's understanding that we're time poor as Australians, right? We are time poor. This is my favorite stat, by the way. A friend of mine's a business psychologist. What is the average attention span now of an Australian? Put this in the mind of a grants assessor who's reading a grant application. What is the average attention span of an Australian?
5 seconds.
Not bad. 9. 9. We live in a scroll generation. All right? So it's all clickbait. It's all clickbait.
You do it better than a goldfish.
I know, right? They're killing us hands down. They're up to 17 at the moment, basically, the goldfish, right? They win out. Yes, sir.
Your focus really seems to me to be on presenting the business case.
Yeah.
And the return on investment.
Yeah.
And in my mind, that's usually financial.
Yeah.
Predominantly. But you also mentioned that some of the key people involved in this process are elected representatives.
Yes.
So if I'm the local representative for state, federal, or local government, am I not going to be looking at a return on investment from my perspective that's not financial?
Yes.
How do you address that in the grant application?
By A, getting a letter of support from them. B, basically substantiating the community need as much as the financial need. Then they are different. So the return on investment basically is, okay, you could build something, it's going to have a latitude basically that's wide and varied for a number of different organisations, but what's the actual need now? What's the need in the next 18 months that needs to be done as a priority? Is it on government's priority list? And it's a reminder for them as well in that regard. That answer the question?
Sort of, not fully.
Return on investment isn't necessarily a financial return. It might be, if we spend this much money, we will increase the mental health of our...
Correct, which is what Headspace did when they went to federal government.
In childcare,
Yeah.
or have more kids playing sport, well, that's the return, that's the outcome.
Yeah, the community benefit, participation rates, joining, numbers going up, people moving into the community, dealing with that. So you're looking at demographics and geographics. You're looking at the constant populace, the amount of people moving in, building, living here. That means social needs, social wants, in-service provision, sport, the arts, education, drug and alcohol, whatever the case may be, right? You quantify that as much as the financial. And that's based on government reports and surveys, because they're doing that anyway. So I'll give you an indicative. We're working with an Aboriginal health entity in Brisbane. And for them to quantify their community impact, basically, who do they source? Queensland Police. Because Queensland Police had all the stats and figures for domestic abuse, for drug and alcohol. And they and they got a letter of support from Queensland Police supporting their application. And guess what? They got the grant. That's what I mean. Bit better now? Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, let's keep going. What they're looking for you, well, who are you? What do you want the money for? How's this linked to your strategic plan? How and who will it impact? What's your blend of strategy and storytelling? What's the total project value? Because you may be asking for a pilot project. And people give to people, not to projects, which is the relationship management. Have to know you to like you to give you the money. Have to have runs on the board, which is obviously not for every organisation because they don't have the historical value. But very much, again, you're trying to optimise that by partnering with other entities. And as Tracy's talking about coming up, auspicing, someone else auspicing your application on your behalf, being the lead applicant and circumventing the funding through to you as a service provider conjunctively with them. Anyone thinking this is too much for a Monday morning? Timing's everything. What they're looking for again, not just buying an output, they're buying an outcome, divest in positive impact, something tangible happens with the funding. Evidence of demand, prove it. Proof of outcome as best you can, trying to factor in, as the gentleman was asking, the intangibles in community funding and the measurables that you must show to them. And for applicants to stop talking about activities and projects and talk about impacts. Don't just tell me how you're going to do it, tell me what's going to happen because of it. So I need a best practice model of how you're going to do it, but what's going to happen? How's it going to be? And not just Hawkesbury LGA. You think of the interchangeable nature of Hawkesbury LGA. People are coming from everywhere in here. And how you can have a wider demographic and geographic of relevancy that people are coming in and utilising and availing of these services as well. Too narrow a focus just to think this LGA. The benefits beyond this to other surrounding LGAs around. So your checklist, a very synopsised one, are the grants for us? Are we eligible to apply once we identify them? We have a fully comprehensive list of all the grants that are out there. Then we have to write the grant, then we get the grant, and then we have to do the work on delivering the grant, and then we do the reporting and acquittal. Very synopsized way of looking at it, but that's the way, overarchingly blue sky, you need to look at it. Okay? People think there's a grant for anything and everything. There is not. It's whatever government thinks a good idea, and whatever philanthropic think it's a good idea for their foundation of trust to support. As Ian Potter Foundation has 7 fundraising pillars or funding pillars that they want to support in the area. So again, it's tailored, right? It's not nondescript at the end of the day. My 2 favorite applications, which we've savoured in the office and framed in the office, we did an application in 2013 for world peace, which they quantified at $59,000 Australian. Bargain of a lifetime. I was going to take out a second mortgage and get a Nobel Peace Prize the same year. How can you quantify world peace for $59,000 Australian? Right? It's not even a strong currency by world standards. No disrespect. All right? So, secondly, we did an application to save all the whales in 2015. Don't think even the whales know they needed saving, to be honest with you. But you do not apply to a Japanese car manufacturer for the grants, because the Japanese have a different prerogative in whaling than we do. Best fit, okay? You got to think tangibly. It's not about who's giving out money, just grab it. It's very much a targeted approach. Because you're trying to build, certainly with the philanthropics, you're trying to build a relationship, multi-year funding. Because a lot of them do 3 years worth of funding, 2 years worth of funding, rather than just 1 year worth of funding. Same with government departments, state and federal, multi-year funding. And by the way, a lot of this correlates to a number of you who may be tendering as well for government contracts. This is very applicable, what I'm saying here as well, as a correlation. Kind of grants and tenders are first cousins of each other. All right? So think about that, government contracts, and that's security of tenure, security of funding as well for your organization, multi-year. But philanthropic, basically, high net worth individuals, they're out there, all right? So what, we've about 76 billionaires in the country at the moment. We have 252,000 millionaires. Anyone here? Law of averages? No? No one putting up their hand for tax purposes? Okay, cool. Of that collective group, about 37% give back, right? So huge, we're growing 4.5% per annum on philanthropy, right? Slow by international standards. But very much we're number 3 in the world giving next in Australia. We are fantastic as a country when it comes to bushfires, floods, tsunamis, world affairs. Other end of the scale, we're fantastic. Bunnings Barbecue, gold coin donation. In the middle, we're abject. We don't give back to our high schools and universities like other countries. So we have a way to go. But these people are out there and they need to be activated, all right? And they're in your community as well. So you've got to grow the nature of philanthropy. People are setting up their own private trusts and foundations, public and private ancillary funds, which are managed by their accountancy or law firm. That money needs to be targeted as well. It's huge amounts of money there at the end of the day, all right?
Do those kinds of, that kind of funding, that kind of money, is that going to be evident on a website like Grants Hub?
No, it's not. It'll be evident on a number of different resources out there in terms of like, you'll have different discussion points like Fundraising Institute of Australia, our community will talk about it. They'll also be listed on those public philanthropic trust and foundation websites. So a good one to look at is the one I gave you earlier on, Perpetual, where they have impact philanthropy. Perpetual give out, as I said, a huge amount of money basically. They're indicative of what's happening, right? You have the Meyer Foundation, you have the Packer Foundation, you basically have the Ian Potter Foundation, ANZ Trusts, all right? The trustee company out of Melbourne. All these entities are ones you need to be looking at in terms of what's the narrative, what's the mindset, how they're controlling philanthropic funding, what people are giving for at the end of the day, where the focal points are. And it's interesting, right? Because like you talk to philanthropy, everyone thinks it's the top end of town, it's the Mosman, it's the Bondi, it's the eastern suburbs or the North Shore of Sydney. It's not. Well, like one of the biggest private bequests in Taronga Zoo Foundation was received from a lady from Camden. Multi-million-dollars. So again, it's very much that you need to resource this for yourself. And this is why going out and having the narrative and having the story, right? Having the profile at the end of the day. Bequests is the second biggest thing you need to look at. 48% of Australians don't make a will. That's a huge target market. All right? Huge amount of funding. All right? So people want to know where they can leave it, what they can do as a legacy funding piece. Some organisations are really articulate and across that. Yes, sir.
Think back to the things at the beginning. The success rate for grant applications is around about 10%, 20%?
About 10 to 15%.
if you put a whole lot of work into it, doing a grant and you don't get it, that's actually a net drain on your organisation. So it's better to do a smaller number of quality grant
Correct.
applications than
Yeah.
applying for a whole lot of stuff and burning out volunteers.
That's what I've been prescribing for years. Yeah, that's it in one. Yeah. So at the end of the day, it's better to write 10 quality applications than 100 just for the sake of it. Because you have a better chance of success out of the quality of 10. If you're getting 2 or 3, you're doing really well. Yes, sir?
Would it be true that if you do the quality smaller grant, you get that, you could use that to lever?
Correct. Every grant is built on the last grant. So most organisations, if they're starting out with grants, they apply for $5,000 grants, get those as runs on the board, substantiate those into $50,000 grant applications, a case study of success, and you leverage again to 50, to 100, to 150, to $500,000. Because I want to see the proven track record, right? I want to see who else has funded you, for what and how much. So even start with the $5,000 grant from council. If they took a punt on you, then you must be worth it. All right? Yes, madam?
I was just wondering,
Oh, sorry.
University Marketplace, number 2 Marketplace, I think it is, Chalice House, was a grant or many years ago where the university is getting rental income from one of the most prestige real estate properties in Australia. Are you aware of Chalice House?
I'm aware that the Catholic Church owns most of Sydney CBD.
Yeah, well, I know they own most of Manly's. They've got a nice.
They all have. And there's nothing wrong with that. I work with multi-faith organisations basically, and they're property investors. And they have been for years. And so again, it's about consolidated revenue, right? It's basically looking at building on grants because you can prove that you've revenue coming to support at the end of the day. So kudos to them, well done. And there's nothing wrong with that at the end of the day. And I work with organisations that just have this astute nature, who they are, what they represent, and their purpose and relevancy in community. You know, and everyone thinks I'm always talking about Lifeline, Vinnies or Salvos, which are great organisations and fantastic. I'm talking more grassroots. I work with very small NGOs and community organisations, but they just haven't realised or told anyone all the good work that they've done. It's on a need-to-know basis. ASIO would be very proud of them, all right? So it's very much, again, that you need to get out there and spruik it and sell it, because I don't see the believability factor at the end of the day. Okay? Yes, madam, you had a question?
So when I write my next grant application, I'm going to quote what I already received, am I, in the next one?
Yeah, you're going to mention it.
I am.
Yeah, definitely. You need to blatantly state it. Who else has funded you, for how much and for what? Without doubt. You know, and because it shows indicatively that you are investable. All right? That basically someone sees something in value and worth in what you're doing at the end of the day, and I should be seen the same way as a funding body. So it's being mindful of that. And if that's your learning again from today, that you're stepping back and looking at where you are to where you need to be, today is your epiphany moment.
So even if they're not related at all, meaning you're going for like a funding to build a building, but you got a grant for wellbeing last year.
I don't mind. Yeah. Because it's substantiation still.
Yeah.
You have a proven track record, rather than coming out of left field where no one's heard of you, no one knows who you are at the end of the day. All right?
Sometimes the grant application form will have a box saying, give evidence of your capability
Yeah.
to deliver this program.
Exactly.
And you say, well, we've delivered these other projects.
That's what I want to see, indicatively at the end of the day. I mean, it has a question now in a grant application. Please describe what success looks like in your organisation. It's an interesting question, isn't it? Or how do you undertake successful? The questions come out of how do you undertake successful programs in your organisation. I had one entity apply for that and say very well, full stop. Need a little bit more than very well, just a little bit more. Just tease it out a bit. Bit too brevity. You know, they were listening, but they went no. So very much again, it's understanding who you are, and again, it's that correlation between me and you, the funding body, and the recipient, right? There needs to be a natural correlation there. There needs to be some element of best fit, all right? Not only in terms of blatantly obvious eligibility, and I get this all the time from organisations. You need to be eligible. Keith, come on, she'll be right. You know, it's an Australian can't say that to us. Yes, they can. It's very much you need to be eligible to apply. But after the eligibility, it's like the correlation of how you get on together. Because I got to work with you, right? We're going to service a contract together. All right?
So, but
Next. Okay. Next.
I was going to ask, So if I apply for a grant for you and you grant it, there's still, after the grant process, you have to check up to make sure I'm hitting the target
Yes.
KPIs.
Correct.
It's not a one-way street. It's
No, it's a funding contract that you and I are both going to sign. And there are deliverables against that
at certain times.
at certain times. So the acquittal could be fortnightly, monthly, quarterly, half yearly, yearly, depending on the size and nature of the project. So you've got to have the envisaged mindset that this is coming. What happens, as I said, if I actually get the grant, it puts another compulsion on us to deliver against the paperwork, against the time management, the project management. And are we up for that? Do we have the capabilities and resources to do that based on a volunteer basis?
Because obviously if you give me a grant and I stuff up, it don't look too good for you.
No, it definitely doesn't look good for you either, my friend, to be honest with you.
Sorry.
It doesn't look good for you either at all. You're the one that stuffed up. Yeah, exactly. And that's where you not want to be. You're jeopardizing a future relationship. And I mean outside of grants as well. They can add capacity to you outside of grants, right? And so basically, you wouldn't be detrimental in anything else you do as a business practice. Why would you be haphazard with grants? There's no reason for it. Yes, sir?
I was just wondering, do you plan to cover DGR status?
I can talk about it now. Yeah, so what I expect from the community sector is that you're incorporated, right? Potentially you're registered as a charity with ACNC, the Australian Charity and Not-for-Profit Commission, and DGR status, deductible gift recipient status with the ATO. DGR 1 is the flavour of what they want to fund as a philanthropic. You need to be DGR 1 because there's 3 elements of DGR. DGR 1 can be hard to ascertain. It can be long. There's a massive weight log to get it. But DGR 1 definitely, now they expect it to be definitely incorporated, definitely DGR 1 status, yeah, without doubt, for philanthropic. But if you're listed as a charity as well, ACNC, even better again. That's what they're looking for. So check it out for yourself. All the information on DGR, deductible gift recipient status, is on the ATO, ato.gov.au, Australian Tax Office. I know we all try to avoid them like the plague, but really good information there on the website.
What size is that pot of money, do you know?
The DGR, we're talking, as I said, philanthropic, so we're into the billions across Australia. So everyone, Twiggy Forrest, Gina Reinhardt, basically, all those entities have their own foundations, give out 25, 30, 100 million, depending on what they're doing per annum. They have their vested interest in what they want to do. Good on them. They're giving back. So in you would have worked that out. You got to be legitimate. So it's a great question you ask. Got to make sure I'm eligible to apply. And then natural correlation again back to we're best fit for each other. Thank you. Yes, sir.
We've been fairly successful with in-house grants.
Well done.
You mentioned club grants.
Yes.
Now, if we want to hold a major function at the registered club, you now have to apply through Clubs of New South Wales and it gets put back to the club.
Yes.
Do you consider that as a submissible thing in a further grant? Would you be recognised that way?
Yes. Again, anything that value adds, I don't mind at all. Yeah. Exactly. If an entity the size of Clubs New South Wales has validated you and supported you, I'd be making brand recognition of that, without doubt. All right? But even you're from Lions, right? Everyone knows Lions, everyone knows what they do in the community base. Just reiterate it back to me. I know, right? I'm the same. Like you can roll your eyes going, well, does everyone? Kind of, right? Of a certain age set like myself, I know, right? Anyone younger going, I'm sorry, what? Lions Zoo? What? They're in the zoo? Yeah, they don't. So we're back to the 5 W's again. Don't take for granted that everyone knows who you are and what you do. You and I do, because we're of that generation. But anyone Gen X, Y, Z, not necessarily, right? That's not a detriment on them. So it's very much, again, be blatant about who you are, who's supporting you, to what value in the community you're serving at the end of the day. All right? And this is where it's just rejuvenating the brand. All right? Just reminding people we're still here. We've done work for 100 years. We're looking forward to the next 100 years. And that's what I want to see at the end of the day, because I need to be led down to a degree that this is the investable opportunity. So as a grants assessor, 1, you meet the eligibility. 2, you're answering all the questions. 3, you're legitimizing your ask. 4, I'm seeing a natural correlation in where we can get on together in terms of me funding you being a recipient of that. 5, potentially we could do something else together. I'm already up to 5. That's what you need to be doing for me. If I don't get those 5 from you, I'm just going to give it to someone else. Because I'm spoiled, right? I'm spoiled with applications. I can give it to anyone. But who do I feel an affinity? And who can really deliver for me at the end of the day? It's just proving it, basically. Everyone tells me they're the best. As I said, just prove you're the best for me at the end of the day. Am I still making sense?
Yeah.
Good. The ADA formula for writing persuasively just does it every time for you. Keeps on point, keeps on narrative. You're steering me, you're guiding me through your narrative. Make it blatantly obvious. Now, obviously with grants now, we're seeing a lot more of infographics. We're seeing a lot more video content. We're seeing a lot more emphasis on what you're attaching, uploads, documentations. We're now even doing a culling process whereby you don't even get to do the grant in the first instance, right? You do an EOI instead now, which is the flavour of the month for government. You do an expression of interest, and if you pass that, then we're going to allow you to apply for the grant. Because they're oversubscribed, there are too many people applying, they need to cull the process down. Okay, it's getting really competitive. So be mindful of that, where you are, where you need to be in that regard. So writing for purpose, know your audience. What do they should be ascertaining out of the document? If it's not blatantly there, why not? Why should they care about your message, where you are, what you do? When and where does the action take place in terms of funding? Is it now? Is it 6 months' time? Is it a year's time? And what are the expected outcomes? As we said, there's a wide variance in that, both financial, community. You're going to need to quantify and qualify all of them for me. What makes for a successful proposal? Well, obviously within their remit of what they're funding. Sufficient documentation supported with facts, and a project reflects people's needs and organisation needs. Stop talking about your organisation and start talking about the general public. It's not about you, it's about them at the end of the day. Okay? Why are projects declined? This is why we knock you out of the ballpark. I should get in there for a photo bomb, shall I? Very much that basically these are blatantly obvious. Nothing here that's going to surprise you, but just don't fall into these pitfalls. Okay, and slide 2. I'm going to draw your attention to the second last bullet point, insufficient evidence that the project can sustain itself beyond the life of the grant. I need to see that. You can't say, oh, once the money stops, we shut down the project. Not a good look. Okay, this is contributory funding, expecting you to be sourcing extra revenue capital from elsewhere. Okay? Measuring outcomes, as I said, even in the application process, not just the acquittal process. Everything we do, give them that assurance that everything you do, you dot the I's, you cross the T's. Okay, because they're circumspect otherwise, especially with community organisations. We had to do an audit in New England a number of years ago at a community organisation from a funding body, and we asked for a copy of their financial recording process, to which a box was produced on the table. That was their financial recording process. You just put the quote or the invoice or the receipt in the box in no chronological order. That was an exciting day in the job. Goal statement or objective statement. What's your vision statement or mission statement? Activities and tasks that are necessary to accomplish it. Benefits and the results of each objective that leads to measuring outcomes. And how do you quantify success? What's the success look like when it's at home in Windsor? How many people attended? What was the uptake? What was the increase in participation? Number of volunteers joined, etc., etc., as well as financial. Don't cut corners on your grant application. It costs what it costs, by the way. Its size and nature is what its size and nature is. That's why most applicants start with a pilot project to upscale it thereafter. They don't go for the whole crash bang wallop, basically. They go for measured to grow. More opportunity to give thereafter. So they go with a pilot initiative running for 6 months, show the viability of it, then say, well, now we need 3 years worth of funding, basically, based on the 6 months evidence. This is an example of an old New South Wales government grant, and this is what I do when I get the grant. I highlight the key words or underline them or bold them to emphasize what I need to be addressing in the answer to my question. Primary purpose, brief overview, what your project will do, and you have to do that in 3,000 characters or 500 words. Not a lot, right? Not a lot. Now, of the 500 words, how many do I want? Well, how many? 380. You can just leave, all right?
I'm brief.
Yeah, well, there's brief and there's brief. All right? Now, it's a great answer because most people think, you know what? I'm done. I've got to 380. What more can I say? I'm being brief. That's not the...
I always push it. I was at a cult.
Okay. My question, yeah, you do, right? The first draft should be ahead of over 500, without doubt. Should be cutting back 100 words, right? So obviously I want 500 words. I'll take 10% less, no more. You can't go over anyway. It's an automated system. It's going to cut you off. So obviously I want 500. So old journalistic adage, count your words and make your words count. But I'll take 450. Anything less than that, no. So the challenge is you're going to write 250 or 380 words articulately, but it's getting from 250 or 380 to 450 without padding out, without waffle and wordology. That's where I see answers tail off into oblivion. You know?
That's always when it makes me think, have I missed something? Because why do you need more words?
Well, this is the thing, right? Otherwise, you're just standing up there going, oh, it's about the law, it's about the vibe, you know? You know? And so very much, again, you need to look at deliberate words. So an exercise I do with my clients is, give me the top 20 words that describe your organization. And they are littered throughout the application then. So what I'm doing as an assessor, I'm joining the dots between the words. And the words bring up so they're empowering words, they're dense words. So you need to look at the top 20 words that describe your organization. And I have a couple of mechanisms, I use that with my clients to decipher that, and we work through that together. What are the top 20? If I stopped you in the street today, and in 20 words or less, how would you describe your organization? It's a good question, right? You need to have an answer for it. Yes, sir?
Basically, what you're describing is an elevator pitch.
Completely.
And if I'm in an elevator for 10 seconds.
Correct. Well, 9. That's the attention span we got. But I'll give you the extra second for this case in point. But you make a very valid point, sir. Yes, it's completely an elevator pitch. So Steve Jobs used to talk about the rule of 3. When he did an Apple product launch, he said, give people 3 pieces of information. That's as much as they can digest at any one time. Just tell them 3 things about the product or service. That'll get them across the line. You're the same. Because you have a defined word count. All right? You can write 380 words, right? But you can also write 380 words of nothing. You're like, it just, what are you, a lot of the time it's a where's Wally exercise for me when I'm correcting scripts. There's an answer in here somewhere. All right? Or it comes at the end of the 380s. Oh, we got there eventually. All right? So I get this inflated language. No inflated language. Okay? Or people talking around the subject. No. Implementation, description, value for money. We're back to that old chestnut again. Describe your experience. And again, subheadings, developing, delivering, managing, monitoring. If formatting will allow, I love subheadings, bullet points. White space is your friend. Remember things like paragraphs? They're beautiful things. All right? So very much, again, I need to see it to believe it at the end of the day, right? These blocks of text like Egyptian hieroglyphics don't work for me. White space, right? As I said, clear, concise, compelling, short, succinct, and to the point. That's what you're looking for as a well-written grant application.
And don't be trying to ignore spell check and grammar check because they often don't say what you want to say.
Yeah.
It really annoys me. I'm typing and a word comes up that had nothing to do with what I was actually talking about.
So if you're doing last minute, you can't have that occur. You need to be very ardent again about combating against that. Exactly.
They want to put commas in weird places and full stops in the middle of sentences.
Well, look, I don't think anyone understands grammar anymore, right?
No.
If I said to you what's the difference between an adverb and a verb or a noun or a pronoun, can anyone answer that for me?
Yeah, but those
There you go.
did grammar at school because we're mature enough.
I'm not going to go with that one. I'll let you fly solo on that.
We're largely more mature than we used to be.
It is, right? Because it's understanding at the end of the day. So you just need to articulate yourself and understand. Grammar is a great thing to use. It's a fantastic resource because it punctuates and enunciates for you, right? And so get yourself a year 10 grammar book from the newsagent and basically go through it for yourself because it'll enhance your script. Yeah, use ChatGPT, use Grammarly, use spell check, use every resource possible by the time we get the last draft up and running at the end of the day. Okay?
My grammar check keeps trying to put things in the wrong place.
But if I said to all of you now, see, what I want in grant, it does, but what I want in a grant application is positive language. We are, we will. Because otherwise I don't want language that's if, but, maybe. Where's the assurance in that? So I need declarative rather than conditional verbs. Who did honours English at school? Who did pass English at school? Who went to SKOOL here? All right. We need intent. So I always need positive language in a grant application. Rather than, oh look, you could give us the money, but Brian's not back from Fiji yet. Who's Brian and why is he in Fiji? And why is he in Fiji and I'm not? All right, so again, this is what I get normally in a grant application, basically, you know? I get all this randomness, basically, from people, like, you know?
They was saying there was some council a few years ago, I forget exactly what it was, but the percentage of Australians who did not understand how English worked because they'd never learned grammar.
Well, I've had to learn 3 versions of English in my life. So obviously there's Irish English, there's English English, and there's Aussie English, basically. And then, well, I know, I only lived there for a while, that's why I came here, basically. I couldn't put up to that. So, yeah, exactly. I thought I came out here knowing English language. No. Aussie's a different way. No one would pass the ball to me in tag rugby until they put an O or a Y at the end of my name. I'm like, you're giving yourself an extra syllable. It's Keith. Just stops at the H. No. Keith O, Keith E. You have to put an O or a Y at the end of it, or else you're not getting the ball. All right? I love that, all right? That's why I love this country. Keeps on giving.
You talked about drafts, so I presume, and a lot of things are done with online forms.
Yes,
So I presume you copy out all the questions from the form.
correct.
And paste it into a Word document.
Correct.
Draft there.
Yes, that's the smart thing to do, without doubt. Now, you can save draft as you go, obviously, on a lot of the online applications, so you can go in and out of it as much as you want. A lot of people do that. They time manage over that period of time. They do one block section. And remember this as well, like the bigger grants, certainly at federal government, the Section A, Section B, Section C, that doesn't mean the same assessor is looking at all 3 sections. So if you said something in Section A, you may need to reiterate it in Section C because it's a different set of eyes looking at it. Be mindful of that as well. And again, just make sure you have all these things. I'm highlighting here what I'm not seeing from organisations. Yes, madam?
How relevant or significant are the people behind the grant? Not the organisation, but the people that are in the organisation.
Great question. There's a question that's now come up in government grant applications asking for the bios of the people in the organisation, the calibre of people running the show, their skill sets, their experience, their qualifications. It's coming up more and more. So they'll ask for who's on your board or who's on your senior management team. They want, exactly, because they want to have trust. They want to see these people know what they're doing. In other words, they know how to manage money. And who are they? Are they the right people? Pardon? Yes, it does. Yeah,
Do you Google them as well?
potentially.
No, I just did.
Well, you see, if you're a board member or a committee member, I expect you to have a LinkedIn profile, right? I expect you to have a public profile on the website of our organisation. Like just a paragraph bio. What you did professionally, your skill set, your qualifications, why you're best suited to the role of secretary or treasurer. Like I've worked with treasurers. I've worked with a treasurer once who said to me, Keith, get me out of here. I only did pass maths in high school. I'm useless. I'm counting on my hands. And they gave me the treasurer role. This is the danger, right? Because what it is because you're so volunteer shortage, you'll take anyone at certain levels, right? That's dangerous though. So yes, get that in order for me, please, the right people. I need the right person project managing the grant. I need the right authority figure, general manager, basically CEO, chairperson, president, whatever, that's going to be looking after this as a hands-on assurance that it's going to go through them as the final say. Yes, very much so. So 50-50 funding is very popular with funding bodies, obviously. Cost offset, risk offset for them, which means you have to have the cash.
So could you use back just a slide? Is there a catch-22 there about the permission to carry out the work when you haven't got the grant to do the work yet?
No. You've got to just have the permission. You're on council land or crown land in the majority of cases. So I just need a letter of support from them advocating that they're happy for that development to take place. Because I'm not awarding the funding until I see that. Because you don't own the land. And again, it's combating something that's come before where people are going, oh, she'll be right, be okay, what could go wrong? It's not your land. Oh yeah, but like they love us. We got on with them for the last 50 years. Yeah, you're still putting a building on their land. So 50-50 funding. It's important you read through it. Talk to them. They put on webinars, workshops. If you have an information hotline, use it. Every resource is there for you. Okay? Now, don't ring them up and go, hey, how's it going? What's the answer to question 7? Right? It's more constructive questions, really, or clarification. Are you applying for the right grant? That's the quintessential. What's best fit? Yes, there's a lot of grants out there, but is it the right one? And again, this is your suitability against that. How we doing? Still awake? There you go. Where else would you want to be on a Monday morning, huh? What's striking you? What's really coming to the fore? It is.
And you had a figure, like after you get the money in the bank.
Yeah.
It's not there, so it's also about, I guess, making the group that you're part of aware of the responsibility.
That's right.
It's not, party hats and streamers when you get the money. It's almost like the beginning. It's not,
That's right. It's continuity of approach. And this is not just applicable for grants, it's for your organisational process as a whole, right? And that's what I want to see. I want those assurances. And you give that to me as a volunteer, let alone a funder.
And I guess also the risk, because we're all volunteer organisations, if we're applying for multi-year grants and we're looking at people at the top with industry experience, it's like, as an organisation, how do you keep those volunteers in those roles?
Correct.
For the duration of the
So,
project, and how do you
very good point. And so what we're now looking at is succession planning, change management, organisational culture, business continuity planning, project rationale, methodology, which I'll touch on. If you don't have those 6 or 7 now, don't come calling.
Can you repeat that?
Succession planning, change management, organisational culture, business continuity planning, project rationale, methodology. That's what I named all my kids, so it just makes it easier to remember.
Does that then mean that, I guess, a lot of smaller groups would necessarily be excluded from this process?
Exactly.
This is a very
Yes.
business corporate
completely.
approach. It's almost like you're going to a bank. You're not going
Yeah.
to like a government.
Yes.
It's like I'm sitting down with a bank manager.
Completely.
He wants to know everything, including what you have for breakfast and how you have your
Government wants to enhance your capabilities. It wants to take you from amateur to professional status because it's got its fingers burnt by too many other community organisations that don't know what they're doing and they've expended money and misappropriated money. So they went, enough's enough, not in our watch anymore. There's going to be a standard bearer. And we're going to professionalise organisations, getting them away. Because you're not even a not-for-profit anymore, right? That terminology has changed. You're now a profit for purpose. That's the terminology, right? And if you come to me, you're still running a community organisation that's a business, profit, loss. If you can't make money, don't be in business. That's why you're setting out to be in business. So obviously there's an offset to that, which is community need. Of course there is, right? But you don't hear Salvos or Vinnies or Lifeline talking about, oh, well, if only we had the money, then we can do it. They consolidate revenue to make sure they can do it, right? It's why they have shops. It's why they have book sales. It's why they do all these different things out there at the end of the day. So it's very much, and it's the same when I work with the faith-based organisations. Like I work with a lot with the Catholic Church. Like they have professional people who are not even part of their congregation or denomination, not even Christians or Catholics, but they're business people. Because we're in the business of business. We make money for the church. So this is a mind shift change. And this is what I'm advocating because I'm just a disciple of the message, basically. It's what government want. And it'll do well for you at the end of the day. It will take time, it will take effort, it'll take a culture change, a mind shift, basically, at the end of the day. But very much, again, you need to be thinking about how do we get there and how can we entice people to come along for the journey with us, basically, while also giving us money at the same time. But you're right, completely agree with everything you've just said. That is now the future for all the organisations in this room. Because that's the expectation. And it's basically, there'll be a natural attrition rate, which government knows. Some of them are going to hit the wall and capitulate, so be it. Others will assimilate and basically join other organisations and collaborate more, so be it. It's now that wake-up call, because a lot of these organisations aren't sustainable anymore, unfortunately. Because what I normally get is I go to organisations and they go, oh, Keith, 1955 was a great year for us. And I'm like, I'm not Marty McFly. I can't get in a DeLorean and go back there. Right? So it's very much, again, like you can't live off 1955. So it's more about now 2055 and how you're going to get there. Yes, sir?
So if you're part of an organisation that basically re-elects its board annually,
Yeah.
with the exception of maybe 2-year directors who become 1-year directors, is there, to your knowledge, any sort of requirement that would not allow you to set up a separate enclave if there was an ongoing fund?
You're talking about the People's Front of the Judea rather than the Judeans' People's Front? No Monty Python reference there. Okay, so no, it depends on your governance in terms of reference. So you should have, is this a hypothetical?
In a way, because our organisation is sort of, we've just been
Okay.
about reporting to the ATO now.
Yeah.
Every year. The way we run our accounts, not required to, but we do get an audited.
Safeguard yourself.
Because it's public money.
Of course.
But having said that, most of our foundations now, you're elected to the board and it's for a period of
Correct.
3 years.
That's right.
Before it winds itself down.
Yeah.
So you've got that continuity.
You do. But the 1 year doesn't allow that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I need to see your terms of reference. I need to see your governance before I really could articulate an answer to that. But if I can't and I won't, you need to ensure that something in those 2 reference documents that person can't go out and set up another organisation within maybe a 3-year remit thereafter. That needs to be written down and need to sign it.
What the Guild has done is not having committees to organise things, but having teams.
Oh, I don't mind what the common denominator is to get it done.
The team can be ongoing.
Yes.
Whereas the committee has a finite.
Yeah.
People have to step down.
So
And that's how we got around it.
good. You need to put that in as an exclusion. Yeah, so they need to, after, and this is what other organisations are doing with their volunteers, let alone their committee members, that if you leave us, that's all well and good, no problem at all. Thank you for your work and thank you for your efforts. But you can't go away and set up a similar organisation within this lifespan.
Yeah.
For usually 3 to 5 years.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Safeguard yourself.
It's like we can sell a bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Talking about safeguarding, what are the liabilities of people on committees that apply for grants and get the grants in terms of the proper acquittal of the grants and so forth? What are their personal and organisational?
Well, you see, the expectation now is that everyone's, or at least one person on the committee has done AICD training, Australian Institute of Company Directors. And if not, why not?
Can you say that one? Sorry.
Australian Institute of Company Directors, AICD. Because do they have directors' insurance? Is it the organisation's liable or is it the individual that's liable? Again, depends on your governance, your risk management, your protocols, your procedures. And if you're circumspect about that, now's the time to go back and dot the I's and cross the T's, because you may have a funding body asking the exact same question. And it's a great question. I need a great answer to it.
There are things that might be relevant for sort of like a $500 million grant, not $5,000 for some play.
Correct. Correct. But
Principle is the same.
the principle is the same. So yes, you're not going to be put on the same microscope as a $5,000 grant compared to a $500,000 grant. But either way, I'm mandating a best practice model. And I said mandate rather than suggest. I'm mandating because you show the quality assurance just reeks from that organisation and is always in that organisation as a continuity of approach. So same for 5,000, 500,000. Yes, madam?
Just on the insurance thing, where would you get that?
Where would I get the what?
The committee insurance.
Well, there's a number of service providers that do that for you, basically. I mean, you need to look at the resources. That, like Volunteering New South Wales or Volunteering Australia would advise you a lot on that on their website.
Thank you.
I'd really look at that and look at all the things you should be doing as a best practice model.
General insurance broker will also look at
Exactly. Yeah. There'll be someone always trying to sell you a policy.
Insurance.
It's this. It's safeguarding and never, never, right?
The two boxes?
Got to tick boxes. You do well in government.
No.
How does your mission align with the funding body's core priorities? What you want to achieve is what they want to achieve. How do you play nicely in the sandpit? It's true, right? Need for funding the commercial potential. Show that to them blatantly. Again, the WFM and VFM principles, the market opportunity. that they've invested into you when they haven't invested in this area or organisation before. So give them a new opportunity to fund something new. Your management capability, which is back to the question that the lady asked, the calibre of people running the show in your organisation, and the local, state or national benefits, the knock-on effect for funding you. How can we learn from this as a best practice model that we can share across New South Wales and Australia? So, know the programme rules, plan your application, be creative but honest. Don't say you can do it in 12 months when it's going to take you 18 months to do it. Research successful grants, as I said, who they gave the money to, for what and how much. Provide information required, no more, no less. Answer the question you're asked, not what you think you're asked, and no superfluous information. Don't need to know everything about you, just need you to answer the question. Okay? And this is great from the funding centre from our community. Can you answer these questions? I wouldn't be going anywhere near a grant until I answer these questions in the first instance. Be mindful of how you look publicly and how you want to look publicly. Okay? Strong evidence again. Substantiate it. Prove it. And again, be mindful of everything we're saying today. Yes, you need to go back and look at governance, risk management, volunteer management, succession planning, because you have to. Even the articulate organisations do this every year to make sure they're on point and on narrative to keep going and be successful and sustainable. Again, have a profile. I don't mind what you use, but be out there that I can find you. And be current, topical, and relevant in your postings and in your content. Okay? You see, I've held off on TikTok there. I just have to draw the line somewhere, right? Grants is about telling a story, painting a picture with words. Yes, it is. This is why business storytelling has come really to the fore. Can you tell a good narrative? All right? Stories work. Certainly as case studies, mini case studies, 60 words or less, indicative value of what you've done already as an organisation. Don't be there at the last minute, as I said, with a grant application. Have a grants calendar, proactive rather than reactive. People only help you if you know you exist, profile, and cultivate that relationship on a continuity of approach. Not just one-off, where you only go visit them once a year because they're only giving out money then. I'll see you same time next year. Don't I feel warm and special inside?
So what's the expectation for submitting the grant if you're doing it? Like if it's due at 5 o'clock and you submit it at 10:02, does that go against you or like?
Well.
Because you know, if you've done all this planning and research and you've read it and drafts and all that sort of
Yeah. No one's going to hold anything against you before putting in at 4:55, but government gets inundated on the last day. The system crashes and you can even get an extension for 3 days because so many students. It's just a logistical nightmare for them. So I'm saying best practice model, you get it in 72 to 48 hours to 24 hours in advance, if achievable. I still have no problem and no one's going to hold it against you putting it in at 4:55, right? Now, saying that, in certain instances, not so much prevalent in government, but maybe in certain instances in the private sector, they can be opened in chronological order of receipt. Now, if Keith's there at 9 o'clock on Monday morning and has had his coffee and is looking at your application, sir, I'm all warm and fuzzy inside, I'm ready to go, I'm pumped, I'm ready to give money. If I'm reading your application at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Keith's getting a bit lethargic, he's getting a bit apathetic and he needs a siesta for himself. So I can't say I'm the same way enthused. So it's just human psychology. First in, best dressed. All right? In certain instances, certain local government authorities open them on chronological order of receipt. So there's no defined end date, but they'll open them as they receive them. Don't you want to be first in, best dressed to create the profile? Yeah. Okay. So again, this is why I'm trying to step people away. It also logistically helps you not to do everything at the last minute, right? We know it doesn't normally work out, right? So very much again, just have a way to make it happen. Nothing with the greatest probity, you would be an fair chance. There's a misconception about grants whereby we're blockers. Nothing could be further from the truth. We're trying to drag you kicking and screaming across the line to give you the money. We just have this expectation of what you're going to be for us. That's all we want. Meet the criteria and eligibility. So still, no problem to apply for 455. Job's done. You get your application in. You get your reference number. We're good to go. But just be mindful of the other circumstances around that as well. Is that okay? Reporting. 4 accountability principles I expect you to abide by as an organisation: equity, access and transparency, and responding appropriately. Small questions to service big ones. We found that most people don't spend the ardent amount of time they should have on what they perceive to be the big questions, because they just think we'll do the easy questions first, and then there's a gap in their argument, basically, not emphasising. All questions have a worth and value. There's a marking scheme against them. There's a matrix marking scheme against them. So don't trivialise anything thinking, I don't have to spend much time on that. You do. And we're aware of trade-off thinking. The goalposts can move. So from the time the grant was advertised to the time you received the funding contract could be 2 different things. Make sure you read the funding contract in terms of obligations and the amount of money.
You're not going to quite get that last point.
So I put a grant out there in public sphere. Grant process has been accomplished. When it comes to then awarding the grants, the contract can be different to what you're actually seeing in the grant that's advertised. There could be nuances of difference, expectations, timelines, budgetary requirements, ROI, KPI. So go through with a fine-tooth comb.
And is that usually available, the funding contract?
It'll be provided for you to sign if you're an award recipient, yes. Yeah.
But not while you're writing the
No.
grant process?
No. Exactly. Yeah.
So things can change after you've got the award.
Correct. Just be mindful of that. Not necessarily all the time, but there have been instances of it. Work with other connectors, internal and external resourcing. Again, do you have someone in your organisation? Have you even asked about someone who can assist you with writing grants? Or do you have to go outside? Again, the costs ensued with that as well. And local, state or federal current affairs. Understand what government is saying, what it's awarding funding for, what its prerogative is to achieve in Windsor. And correlate to that. Okay? Again, you can see this is their own terminology. They love effectiveness and efficiency, right? Want to see ROI. I've talked about inputs, outputs, outcomes before. This is an example of outputs and outcomes. So efficiencies of scale. I want to make sure that everything you do is benchmarked as equivocables, is thought through, is not circumspect, is specific, not generic. Specific to this area, to the people in this area, to the needs of this area, which can be quantifiably different to other parts of New South Wales. So carefully follow the instructions, always tailor your budget specific to their priorities and guidelines. As I said, use positive language. We work off the 80-20 rule. 20% of your narrative needs to be the problem. 80% needs to be a solution-based strategy. I only give money for solutions, not problems. So the whole of your grant application can't be talking about the problem. You're not going to get the money. We know what the problem is. That's why we're giving the money. I need solutions. Shorter is better. Keep a proposal tight and details condensed, and document the need or problem on multiple levels, but be specific. In other words, no world peace applications, please. So talk about an investment rather than a gift, because that's what it is. As I said, avoid dwelling on problems, focus on opportunities, and a realistic assessment of the urgency. I know you needed the money yesterday, but you mightn't get the award funding for up to 6 months. Can't start in the project to be deemed null and void in retrospective. You still understanding me okay, or I need to slow down a bit more? All okay?
Yeah.
Just want to shatter a national illusion for everyone as well. None of us ever in Ireland have ever said, top of the morning to be sure, right? Just as a national. I get that everywhere I go when I come to Australia. Oh, hold on. And I'm like, I know where you're going with this. Everyone thinks we say that. And I've never met a person in Louth or Dublin or Belfast or Cork that's ever said that to me. I love that, right? Love it. Hey? Yeah. I pulled into the 7-Eleven on the way here today, this is what I love, to get petrol in the car, obviously. And the guy said to me, heard the accent, he went, oh, how's your potatoes? Probably the same as yours, mate. Thanks for asking. Don't mention the famine. You gotta love it. Practice. You gotta practice your actual exercise. You gotta do grant writing for yourself. I'm not gonna ask you to do this now, but you need to practice. You need to take old questions from old applications and practice. Not even writing an answer, just conceptualizing how I would write the answer. What bullet pointing out what would be included in that answer. Okay? Because look, what number 3 is asking for a lot, right? You need to break it down and spell it out. You need to plan it. So project rationale, the why. It's always about the why. And justification of the why. And to do that, you need to spell all that out to me. And the rationale that fits in what government's suggesting they're doing, what they are doing, and that compatibility. Show that correlation in your argument. And again, time management. Factor in things that are going to have an effect on the delivery of your project or endeavour. And be mindful of that, be upfront about that. And so, big thing now for government is cost-benefit analysis, future financial projections. So it costs this now. Obviously, we're dealing with cost of living crisis, inflation, tradies quotes, which go up 6 months later after you get them. You've got to factor all that in your financial management now when you put it in as a grant submission. Budget. I'm just testing you in a budget that you're not misappropriating, and it's not artificial budget inflation. It costs what it costs. I'm not there to pay for the overheads of your organisation unless otherwise prescribed. So I'm not there to pay for wages, running costs, transport. That's on you. I'm there to pay for projects, programs, initiatives, bills, infrastructure. All right? So I need quotes. I need cost-benefit analysis. I need future financial projections. So it's become not just about the bookkeeper doing it now. It's actually about getting the accountancy firm to do it. And again, the request is what you're asking for, we're allowed to pay for. You know, I did have an entity, a community transport entity a number of years ago who was applying for community transport, obviously. They were looking for funding for a new bus. Not only did they send in the grant applications, the good old days of hard copy. Everything's online now, obviously. Good old days of hard copies, they send in the grant application and the BMW bus catalogue with it and earmarked page 56 and told me what colour scheme they would like the bus in as well. Computer said no that day. All right? So again, it's very much about optimizing. And so can it be second-hand? Can it be shared? Can it be a community utility? Why are you just building it for you when other entities can use it? That's what I want to see. That's real value for money. Sharing is caring, right? So that's what I want to see.
Is it just the previous thing about costing is, obviously the fund doesn't want you padding it out.
Yeah.
Is it valid to say, well, we've got a quote for what it would cost to deliver it now, and we're not going to get the money for 6 months' time?
Yeah.
We've built in a contingency.
Yes.
10%
Yes. Yes.
To make sure it gets delivered.
Very much so.
So that could actually make it look more professional.
Yes. That's exactly what I want, please. In one. Yeah. I want you to be financially savvy enough to actually look at it that way. Yes, sir.
So with that point, what happens if you underspend?
Well, two things. Number one, you need to notify me. But the second thing, as in the funding body, I'll decide to either for you to reappropriate that funding to another component of the same project, or I'll ask for the money back. And logistically, it's a nightmare for me to take the money back. So I'll usually just ask you for plan B, please, that's correlated to it and once you can spend money on. And that's when you send me in the BMW bus catalogue again.
So could the plan, okay, so you want go faster stripes on the bus or something?
Well, no. I need something a bit more tangible than that.
But if the original scope is delivered for less than the money appropriated,
Yeah.
are you suggesting that the scope be expanded retrospectively in order to consume the funds?
No, projects have to grow and evolve. So there'll be a stage 2 of that project. I'm allowing you to appropriate the funding to that next stage of the project, the evolution of it.
Put it towards the trailer.
Yeah, an addendum that adds value to the project at the end of the day. So I may have given you money for the bus. Instead of putting the stripes in the bus, I'm going to give you money for the trailer instead. That make sense? I like the go fast stripes though. I've already got that visualization already. Like,
I learned that in Australia.
so again, offsets, second hand, other ways of looking at it, and factor in obviously inflation and salary if salaries are allowed, cost of living, all of the usuals basically, which is that cost benefit analysis. And again, have to come back to the project itself. And that's artificial inflation otherwise. That's not a good look. And don't start anything, as we said, until we do the funding contract. Methodology. So as I said, project rationale and methodology have come to the fore. Quintessentially, that last bullet point there should be a clear pathway linking individual stages of the project. A leads to B, leads to C, leads to D, no gaps in your argument. Okay? And it's that second bullet point there, should include a brief recap of the need, objectives, and expected impacts of the project, but must certainly provide a very clear description and explanation of how you're going to go about achieving those objectives. Spell it out to me, prove it to me. You quantify it as tangible, sell it to me. I need to have a baby steps. I need to be guided and steered through this. I'm not necessarily a knowledge-based expert on this. Okay? Because after I read through it, I should feel comfortable how I know it's going to work. Because you've educated me. So evaluation. Again, inherently you should be doing this as an organisation, everything you're doing, let alone for a funding body anyway. Okay? And then you're working out, well, how often do we need to do it? And because the more you do it, the more frequent you do it, the more relevant it is for your, not only your project, but your organization, because it allows you to streamline it and make it more linear and very much on track, on deliverables, on budget, basically, rather than go, let's see how it goes. Because that never works out, right? So it's very much, again, having a plan. And remember, evaluation, again, it's at the start, it's not at the end, and it's very much how often you're going to do it, because it allows you to continue, modify, or delete project activities as you see fit. Yes, ma'am?
When writing a grant application, what assumptions can you make about the level of expertise of the people who are assessing?
So most instances with government, there's a subject matter expert on the panel, if not multiple. So you'll have really good opportunities there. Not necessarily the case always in private sector. You usually have the board of that foundation or trust to manage it. Doesn't mean necessarily they're a subject matter expert. They may do. They may call in one as well. So you'll have a good enough chance, but either which way, you must sell the common denominator to me, right? Which means Joe Blogg's effect on the street. You got to convert them.
So you wouldn't want to necessarily use, industry specific.
No. Or acronyms. Yeah. And this is the problem I have with academics. They keep on writing like an academic. Sorry about that. And I'm not having to go at you, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Academics talk up here, and they talk in their own academic speak to other academics. To people come in and go, I'm sorry, what? And so that's not going to cut the cheese with me, all right? It's too highbrow. Right? Nor am I saying dumb it down. You never dumb down a grant application, ever. You find the equivocal median. So you're working off the expectation that no one is a subject matter expert on this panel. So I'm going to educate them through it. But I'm going to have a congruence whereby there's a common understanding still when they read through it, whether there is a subject matter expert or there isn't. Is that okay?
Yes.
That's what I'm teaching academics at the moment at universities, and I work with multiple universities. Yeah, exactly. So find the common denominator. Find the je ne sais quoi. Find the real essence of what you're trying to be, basically. You need to stand out for the ground. So in a grant application, there has to be a point of difference or a unique selling point, or both. How do you stand out from the crowd? Point of difference, unique selling point. Back to the 20 words again. Back to the elevator pitch again. Why you, why here, why now? You can't be opening with, well, in 1856, Father John Joseph Maguire came to Parramatta. Oh God, here we go. Right? It's not going to, it has to be that elevator pitch. And I just want to see things are on track. Give me that assurity that it is happening in that regard. Because if not, we're turned into CSI Sydney. It's an autopsy we're doing. Not where we want to be. Too late in the day, that ship has sailed. This is one of 5 project plans that I hand out to my clients. I wanted to share one with you today. A project title, less than 10 words, optimally 5 words. And a project summary of 100 words that includes the purpose of the project, the scope of it, the people involved, the financials, how much it's going to cost, timescales, when it's going to be done by, the risks associated with such, and how we're going to implement it. The who, what, when, where, why. Because the full project description is 1,000 words of that. Jeez, everyone's going to be down Kmart after this printing out photos from the phone, aren't they? And these are my top 10 tips. Make it about your reader because they are your prospective client. Answer the question, try not to waffle, make it clear what's in it for them, the return on investment. Be direct, don't talk around the subject, talk at the subject. Avoid sweeping statements. Give great examples, those mini case studies. Remember, looks can kill. Well, if it's littered with errors and looks sloppy, it's written by a sloppy organisation. Judge the book by the cover. Jog their memory if you've been in receipt of funding from them. Remind them what a great job you did of delivering on time and on budget. And make a word perfect, as I said, old journalistic adage, count your words and make your words count. And that's me. You got there in the end. I'm also on LinkedIn as well if you want to join me there. Questions, comments, clarification, talk to me. Oh, thank you. Thanks, Mum. Get that grant, folks. Get that grant. Are we all grant ready? Yes, sir.
Frequently asked question when you're applying for a grant is there any other forms of grant being sought?
Yes, correct.
Now, is that sort of viewed generally as a good thing, or?
It's viewed generally as a good thing as long as there's no conflict of interest. Right. So you wouldn't apply to one bank when you know you're applied to another bank for the same grant. Intersector.
Or applied to a bank.
Yeah. So very much, basically, it's held as a good thing. They expect you to be applying. They don't want you to put all your eggs in one basket. Correct. And it's intersector. So most people go one supermarket, one insurance company, one bank, one car retail. You know what I mean? They optimize their chances as well. But they also want to instigate relationships with those entities as well, right? They want to have commercial arrangements with them. They want to have business arrangements. They maybe end up having one of those entities as a sponsor, let alone as a funding body. So there's other ways. You're still profiling yourselves with them at the end of the day. Because they may actually call you and go, I think there's something here outside of the grants process. Someone else had their hand? Yes, sir?
So, with the men shed, we want a shed. So
Yeah.
that'd be one application, and we want tools to go in the shed.
Yeah. But you see, I wouldn't necessarily ask for the tools in the grant.
No.
You'd go and negotiate with Bunnings or someone like that for in-kind support. You wouldn't ask for a grant for it. All right? Because it's not big enough to get me enticed as to think, oh, I want to fund tools. All right? So not everything should be in the grant. Not everything.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying is you could have two separate, you need a building,
Yeah, exactly.
but an empty building won't do very much.
No, it won't.
So we can go out and say, like from the Mention Association, they do give grants for tools,
That's right.
or you get it from other.
And that's what I want to see. Exactly. And that's what I want to see, how you're resourcing this outside of the ask to me. That shows aptitude and really shows aptitude of where you want to go and acumen about how you're going to do it.
We've already got some of the other shits are happy to hold our hand.
The more you're ticking the box for me as a funding body, the more we're going to get on together.
Right.
Don't come to me, because I normally get grant applications just go, we're amazing, thanks for asking, please give generously. The community loves us. We have such an impact in the community. Sounds good, looks good, no substantiation. So tell me blatantly, in a narrative that flows, reads well, is succinct, that you do all that. And that means inverse pyramid. The first draft of what you do is very wide and varied, and then you narrow the focus down by draft number 4.
So you'd look much better if you're not saying you're the only source we're getting money from.
Yes.
And we're not looking anywhere else.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're just going, please give generously, or please serve some more. It becomes a beg and bowl ask. It's not a good look. All right? It doesn't show the aptitude of sustainability. And you'll take money off. This is the other thing as well. Who would you take a grant off? Would you take a grant off anyone? Ethically, you got to think about who you're taking money off, right? So a lot of people say no to clubs because it's the profits of gambling. All right? A lot of people say no to oil companies or alcoholic companies. Just say no, can't do that ethically here.
Just to jump back a bit, you said earlier that funders rarely want to give like 100% for a large project. They're more comfortable giving part funding for something.
Yeah.
Does that mean you're often in a position where you need to say, we've applied with some organisation for a grant, we've got that in train, council and we're asking for this proportion for you, is that?
Yeah, that's okay.
Is that-
I've no problem with that. Obviously, you talk about it as a pending application, so there's no guarantee necessarily you're going to get it, but at least you're splicing it up whereby you're not overemphasizing to me that it's all or nothing on my shoulders to make a decision that you're actually going, I've carved up the cake and proportionally I've come to you with this slice because I think it's best fit for you, this slice of cake, not the whole cake. And I go, cool, you know me, we can get on.
When you do go to write a grant and you want someone to look over it, can we send it to someone?
Can you go to someone with that? Yeah, there's loads of services out there that'll do that for you.
Who? What?
Well, you're looking at one.
That's what I was asking as well, hinting as. Yeah, like if that's something that, especially if you're going for a big one.
Yeah, that's what I do. Yeah. So feel free to contact me. We can talk offline. Yeah. No problem. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
If in the event we put a grant for a disability toilet block and shower system,
Yes.
and we had somebody within our organisation that had a building company,
Yes.
and they got paid to do that, would that be seen as a conflict?
Not if you're forthright and open and transparent about it, and not if basically if they're doing it at an optimum price, basically that they're absorbing some of the cost as their contribution.
They're already a supporter of the organisation.
Okay, so they're kind of doing it as in kind at cost level, like yeah. Just be open and transparent about it. You will be rewarded for again thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
They'll like that for you, and they'll really like that you're being blatant about it as well.
Yeah.
That you're kind of we're kind of doing it. Dogs doing it for us, you know.
Because within our organisation, we've got lots of trades, lots of business people there that do all of this sort
Exactly, capitalise on that.
so we could utilise.
They'll love that for you. Yeah.
That's putting back into the community as well.
You will be rewarded of mindset and funding for that.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
So keep up the good work.
Say you've already got funded a program from your primary health network in one area.
Yep.
But the community one set in the Hawkesbury, is that something that you can apply? Say you've got the funding from the PHN over there, but you can't get the funding through the primary health network in Deerburrin Mountains. You could get it possibly through council grants.
Yes.
And would they likely fund something that's already funded in another area?
Well, yes, because it's a different area, right?
Yeah, sweet.
So there's no conflict there. And you're building on the correlation again because, you know, it's not as if Sydney-siders just reside in one LGA. I mean, they commute into work somewhere else or they use services elsewhere interchangeable. So that's what you're selling back to them at the end of the day. That basically, because a lot of people from the Blue Mountains work here and vice versa, that interchangeable nature is what you're selling. So there'll be no conflict there, yeah. Be okay.
You can also leverage any of the outcomes that are already coming from these.
Correct. That's what they want to see, yeah. How you're building, it's building blocks, right? How you're building on the end of the day, yeah. But then talk to the PHM, but talk to the LHD as well, right? There's two different types of funding there, right? All right, yes, madam.
Could you give an idea of average cost of the people that are grant writing assistants or
Sure.
proofreaders?
The spectrum really at the moment, you'll have grant writers out there that charge at $50 an hour the whole way up to $250 an hour. Someone will charge a flat fee of a couple of $1,000s to do an application for you. Yeah, that's what you're looking at as a spectrum basically in the day. If you're going to work with a grants person, you need to talk to them about their success rate, their fee structure, and their knowledge of that particular grant. They've worked on it before, they have an understanding of that sector, they know the nuances of it. They're the three questions you're going to ask them at the end of the day. But that's what you're dealing with. And again, you can't take the money out of the grant to pay them. You have to actually have that money. Exactly, yeah, you have to have grant resource at the end of the day. So there's a huge amount of grant writing service out there. Shop around, as they always say, and everything. But yeah, some really good ones out there. But we're moving away from the fee-based and success model. Yeah, because they value add a lot more. They actually pass on guidance to you. And again, I've taken a different approach. Most of my clients write their own because they want to be involved in the process to a degree and understand it to a degree. Because in the past, I've written it for organisations. They've got a phone call or an email going, "Congratulations, you got the money," and they're going, "Great. What do we get the money for?" Keith wrote it. I don't have a clue what he said. Not a good look, right? So it's more about educating and working with them, basically. So I come in at the end of the process. I'll be there at the end. I do a bookend. I'll be there to say, this is what you need to do at the start. They go off and do it, bring it back to me, submit, done. And I think it works effectively as a process for both parties concerned. Okay, sandwiches are served. Thanks for your time. Can we thank Council for putting it on as well, Tracy and her team? Thank you for attending. Take care of yourself. Have a good rest of the day.